If tomorrow was Judgment Day and I'm standing on the front line, when Bobby Christina hit that joint, Sing Mommy, that shiz took that song to a totally different level.
I don't hear nobody out there.
Trying to get things together. I'm fitting to go out of town. Well, in July, I'm going back home. I'm going to be off of work from June 23rd to July 23rd. It's just going to be a whole break. And I'm trying to get as much done in regards to the book club as possible. Okay? So when I put up, please tip your favorite narrator at $Renée Rob on YouTube via Cash App, that's what I mean. Go and give me a tip over there at the Cash App, because I'm fitting to go home and I want to have a good time without having to dip into the savings. You're all pretty good to me. I appreciate all the things you do. Ooh, and my Patreon membership has picked up. And my YouTube membership has picked up. I love you. I love y'all because y'all love me. When I had 6 or 7 songs recorded, we called Puff and met with him at a hotel in Manhattan. We've been working, Todd told Puff. She's ready. And I've been working on my look too, I said. I had gained a lot of weight when I got pregnant with Joshua. I love the way Faith is always speaking of her struggles with her weight. I had gained a lot of weight when I got pregnant with Joshua, and it had been really tough getting it off. I know how Puff is about having the look. And it's not just him, it's the entire music industry. So I'd been ferociously trying to get back into shape. I see. You've been working out? Puff asked. Absolutely, I told him. I'd also had a bit of lipo and a breast lift. We played him one of the songs I'd recorded in Los Angeles, a joint called You Gets No Love, and it turned out hot. I knew without a doubt that Puff was going to love it. As soon as the song came on, I watched Puff's face intently. I knew he wouldn't flip out and tell me right away that he liked it, even if he did. Todd and I had taken a big risk by going outside the usual bad boy family. If he didn't like it, he would be quick to tell me so. And if he did, he still wouldn't really go out of his way to show it. That reminded me of, what's his name? Barry Bedbug Bites. Remember when Stevie Wonder came to the Motown and played 72 instruments at the same time? And when he was interviewed about it, Berry Gordy was like, he all right. But he played 72 instruments at the same time. He all right. Because he don't want to give that person power. No one is bigger than the group. Puff asked me to come down to Miami to start working on the record. He was in the middle of several different projects, but now I was his priority. I'd achieved my goal. I got his attention by bringing him a hot track and showing him that I meant business. We made plans to settle in Miami for a few weeks to work on my 3rd record together. We recorded several songs at Circle House. We ended up being there on Mother's Day 2001. Puff brought his mother, Todd brought the kids from Atlanta, and we all had a great time together. For the first time in a long time, I felt like Puff and I actually bonded. For this album, I was determined to have a very relaxed recording atmosphere. My first album I recorded in the middle of a torrid affair. My second album was recorded while I was both still grieving for Big and falling deeply in love with someone new. This time around, I felt centered and settled. I have very fond memories of my time in Miami. In order to really do your best work when you're on a label like Bad Boy, you really have to have a decent relationship with the head of the label. It's not just about paperwork and recording. I had to go that extra mile to bond with Puff, and it was paying off. I tend to be a loner. Sometimes I just want to stay in the house and be with my children. Todd urged me to think outside the box. It's not always enough to bang out hot songs. FaceTime with producers and with Puffy was important too. Before I even started working on my third album, I'd recorded Heartbreak Hotel with Whitney Houston and Kelly Price. The song was the first single from Whitney's new album, My Love Is Your Love. If tomorrow was Judgment Day, and I'm standing on the front line. When Bobby Christina hit that joint, Sing Mommy, that shiz took that song to a totally different level. Before I even started working on my third album, I'd recorded Heartbreak Hotel with Whitney Houston and Kelly Price. The song was the first single from Whitney's new album, My Love Is Your Love, and the exposure I received from being on her #1 single and featured in the video put me on a slightly different playing field. I was exposed to a pop audience as well as my always loyal R&B listeners, and I was poised to introduce myself to a whole new legion of fans. But even as we all hung out in Miami together, there were things going on back in New York that I was not privy to. Things that would have a huge impact on my future at Bad Boy. When a new record is released, it takes dozens of people working on the same exact page to make things come together. The publicity department has to make sure the artist is featured in the media at the right time. Child, they don't need publicity no more. All they need is the tiki-taki and the YouTube. The promotions department has to make sure that the right single is playing at the right stations as often as possible. The marketing department has to ensure that any way the artist can be exposed to the record buying public is happening on a grand scale. If there is any glitch in the matrix, the entire setup of an album can falter, and it is almost impossible to get back on course once that happens. As I was traveling to support the album, I got some distressing news. Almost as soon as my first single, You Get No Love, was released, I was hearing through the grapevine that Puff was moving Bad Boy from Arista to Universal. I had just released a brand new album, and I was very fearful that all of our hard work in Miami was going to go down the drain. If Bad Boy was moving, what did that mean for me? Sometimes in these situations, the parent label can keep certain artists. For example, when Clive Davis left Arista to start J Records, Whitney Houston had to stay at Arista. So I wasn't sure if Puff was taking me with him or if I was staying at Arista. Todd and I met with L.A. Reid, but I left that meeting still confused about my status. As I continued to promote my album, I became more and more discouraged. There didn't seem to be any incentive for people to really push my project. I was caught in the shuffle of Puff's move from one label to another. I know that Puff had to make his own business decisions, and things couldn't be timed to benefit me. But all I could think about was everything I'd done to show him that I was serious about taking my career to the next level. I have the Clive Davis book, y'all. I do. If somebody read the Clive Davis book already, can you all put in the comments and let me know if you felt like he was forthcoming, even about, okay, El Diablo. One of you people in the comments reminded me that Clive Davis' name ain't Clive Davis. His name is El Diablo. And let me say this, the book is about this goddamn thick. But if he ain't telling truths and giving us the realness about it, it might as well be like this. You can keep all that bullshit. But I need to know the dirty shit that you did, if it's going to be this thick. All of that hard work in Miami, I complained to Todd. And for what? Todd shook his head. Look, you did your job. You delivered a great album, but that wasn't enough, I said. I feel like it never is. Working with someone like Puff is like being in a marriage, and sometimes when you realize the love is just not what it used to be, it may be hard for you to let go and move on. Even if you know it's the right thing to do. As I toured the country to promote my third album, I realized it would be my last as an artist on Bad Boy. This would mean asking Puff for a release from the label. Now, she done got her balls up. She get ready to meet with Diddy. One of his assistants walked me up several staircases. Each floor we passed seemed to have a different theme. We got to one floor that was decorated wall to wall and top to bottom in white. From there, we went up one more flight where there were several offices. Assistants were opening boxes of clothing from his new line, Sean John. Puff had come a long way from having the entire operation working out of his mother's house in Scarsdale. I thought about when he used to walk me down to the West Village for my weekly tanning sessions and then wait for me until I was done so we could walk back to the office together. I couldn't imagine he ever had the time to dote on his artists that way anymore. Finally, we went up another level to a large but cozy kitchen. Puff was sitting at a round kitchen table as his chef stood at the island in the center of the kitchen preparing his breakfast. "What up, Faith?" Puff said, standing up from the table and leaning over to give me a hug and brief kiss on the cheek. "You want some breakfast?" I shook my head and told him I'd eaten earlier. "So what's going on?" "I feel like I'm in limbo right now, and I feel like you've got a lot going on right now." Puff brought his juice to his lips, took a very small sip, and put his glass back down. He looked at me and waited for me to continue speaking. "I feel like I've gotten lost in the shuffle." Puff nodded. "And I feel like I don't have your support. This last album, I really feel like I did everything you asked me, and just do not feel like I got the support back from you that I needed." Puffy's chef brought him a plate with eggs, turkey bacon, and toast. Puff leaned in and inspected the meal, then picked up his fork and began to eat. "You sure you don't want anything?" he asked. I shook my head. Puff took a long moment to chew and swallow a bite of food. "I understand what you're saying," he said. "I think you just need to be patient and work out some of the ... Just let me go, Puff." Puffy put his fork down. "Excuse me?" I sat up straight and looked him in the eye. "Release me from my contract. Let's work out the money and figure out how to make this work. It's time for me to move on." "I thought we was better than that." "We are. So if you can't nurture me the way I need to be, it's best for you to just let me go. If that's what you want, it's cool." "It's the right thing to do," I said, "for all of us. I'm just ready to try something new." Puff chewed his food thoughtfully as I continued to speak. "I think we did a lot of amazing things together, but I'm ready to branch out." Puff finished his meal and sighed heavily. "You have to do what you have to do," he finally said. "We changed the subject and talked about old times, about Big and the early days of Bad Boy. We talked about our children and how they would grow up and hear some crazy stories about our wild days. You better say that again. What? What? I bet you Puffy ain't never think about this.
I know I ain't bugging. I know I ain't bugging.
Hi, baby.
Hey, yo.
Good morning.
Y'all see this shit right here? Do y'all see this right here, man? You tell me what the hell is that, man? What is that, man? What is that, man? And who is this, man? Who is this, man? I blame you. I blame you.
After about an hour, it was time for me to go. Puff walked me downstairs. No matter what happens, I always got love for you. I smiled and gave him a hug. I wasn't just leaving Bad Boy, I was starting a whole new journey. The idea of being on my own, no longer in Big's shadow, no longer in Puff's shadow, was both thrilling and frightening. I closed my eyes, clasped my hands together, and prayed for the strength to make it to the next step, wherever it would take me.
Hey, do my favorite go-go song. Taking a ride on the east side, made a left on MLK. What a beautiful day, what a beautiful day. Riding high on the west side, looking for a hood rat to play. Won't you come out and play? Won't you come out and play? Hey, taking a ride. Hey, hey, on the south side. Ooh, ooh. MLK. Hey, hey, hey. We like that good. Say what?